This should be the youngest 300 TDI Defender in the UK, but it's not. It's actually the 6th youngest 300 TDI Defender in the UK. Why do I use the word youngest and not newest? Well, it's not new, it's used, but it is in very good condition. I'm using the word young because there are only 5 other Defenders that were built after this one. So young means the order in which they were built. And I'm going to explain a little bit later why this should be the youngest in the UK, but it's not. I'm going to be geeking out a bit in this video, so be warned. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just above self-actualization and transcendence, there is the pinnacle of buying a Land Rover Defender based on the last 6 digits of its chassis number. As I said, you have been warned. So what is this Defender and why is it so special? It's been a 6-year quest to try and find one of these. And what exactly is it? It's a 2006 model year rest of the world spec 300 TDI Defender. Rest of the world spec, if you want to know what that is, I've got tons of videos about these types of vehicles, but they're basically were sold for export in countries where the 300 TDI was still preferable. And why buy me looking for a 2006? I've already got a 2003 version of these that I've done tons of videos about on the channel. When you start making videos about stuff and obsessing over them a little bit, you kind of want to get to the last explicit version you can, and the 2006 models, I've been traveling the world and looking and driving at these for such a long time that I decided I wanted to get one for myself, but it's taken 6 years to get to this point to actually find one. But what were you going to say? There were 5,500 2006 300 TDIs built. Why is it taking me so long to find them? Well, I've kind of been obsessing over, if I'm going to get one, why not get one of the last examples that were made? The 2006 model year ran from about October 2005 all the way around to January 2007. So if you're going to buy one of these, wouldn't it be nice to be able to get one of the 2007 built vehicles, of which this is one? Now, if you want a 2007 built vehicle, you're going to need a chassis number higher than 731964, but lower than 732614. So that leaves 631 vehicles that are eligible of being a 2007 built 300 TDI Defender. You can't just subtract one from the other because there were TD5s and Pumas built in that era as well. So that makes this the 503rd last ever 300 TDI Defender. But we can narrow it down even further than that. This is the 442nd last civilian 300 TDI because there were some military models made in that era. Not only that, it's the 247th last 110 station wagon. And if we go a step further, it is the 163rd last left-hand drive 110 station wagon, which of course were the most numerous models made with a 300 TDI in rest of the world specification. And not only that, it's now the 6th youngest 300 TDI in the UK. So all the other 300 TDIs in the UK have just bumped down the list by 1 notch. So what's all the talk about the fact that this should be the last 300 TDI Defender in the UK? Well, this quest started out as trying to buy the 20th last 300 TDI Defender ever built, which was a sister vehicle to one of these in the fleet that it was in. And that was my quest. That was what I found, the vehicle. I was in negotiations to purchase it, and would you believe it, between me finding the vehicle and expressing that I wanted to buy it, it was stolen. And I was told by the police, or told by the seller through the police, that it was probably on new number plates and had been resprayed. This is in a different country. And I 100% believe the seller in that regard. They had no reason to be fobbing me off. So I got this close to buying one of the last ever 300 TDI Defenders. There would have been only 19 others. There was, of course, then my second opportunity to buy another one of the sister vehicles of this one, and that was the 328th last 300 TDI Defender, and that would have been the 4th youngest in the UK. But alas, that one was involved in a fatal accident and it was impounded as evidence. So then we move on to my third choice, this one, the 503rd last. So while 503rd and the 6th youngest in the UK may not sound that impressive, I would say to you, well, you go and buy or find one of the other 502 or 5 that are in the UK, or at least convince the sellers to actually sell them. So I'm very happy with this purchase. It's taken me a very long time to find them, and it's in excellent condition. I'm going to give you a tour now, and the price was not bad either. If you want to know how I got it into the UK, then check out my previous videos of the journey I got from bringing this one 3,500 kilometers from overseas. Let's start at the front. So it's got a bull bar. You know, it used to have a Codan radio fitted on here. This is a bit rusty, and this is why this gap's here for the wiring to go back in. But since the world's gone, you know, mobile these days, cell phones, whatever, mobile phones, it's not been required. We've got this galvanised bit on the top with a, you know, tow recovery loop on the top of the bumper there. I've always been curious about these. A lot of this stuff was made specifically for this fleet. It's not stuff that you'll find off the shelf particularly. I've always been curious about these, whether this, you know, recovering here would tend to try and peel the front of the bumper off, but it's actually, what's that, about 8mm. That's 8mm steel there, so it's pretty darn solid. It's got aircon as well. A lot of the last Defenders 300 TDIs were built with aircon. Got a steering guard here, aluminium steering guard, all the way across. And then the really interesting thing, which I really like, is an axle guard combined with a track rod guard. This does have an extra plate here, which I've unbolted to be able to get to the drain plug, and also easier access to the fill plug. But yeah, track rod guard all the way across there. I think it's an excellent product. Someone told me similar to what was known as a South Down guard in the past. But if anyone knows where these are available, I'd be interested to know if anyone else. So I can't basically tell you where you can buy these things because I don't know myself. So there's the steering guard, and there's the back of the steering guard. See, it has the track rod. It protects the track rod all the way across. This is the condition of the chassis. I've given this a good wash, but that is factory paintwork. It was filled with mud. The mud was up to about here, all the way along, and in the back. It took me about 2 days, 2 afternoons, washing this out to get all the mud out. It took bloody ages. But yeah, incredibly good condition. It's lived in a very hot climate. There is the beauty. It's a bit dusty. It's lived in a dusty environment. This is one of the last 300 TDI engines ever made. This has got an engine number in the 13,000 C suffix range. If that means anything to you. Snorkel on the top, bolted onto the roof rack. This has been replaced. I'm not entirely sure what brand the roof rack is. That might also be a custom one. It's not a brown church one. The brown church come with 3 or 2 groups of 3 legs at either side. What I really like about this is what's on the top. So you've got a checker plate here and on the bonnet. It did have a mounted spare wheel mounted on the bonnet, but that was removed and the checker plate put on, because one of the spare wheels would be up here. So this is a rear door spare wheel carrier that's been integrated into this kind of well and these brackets on the roof rack, which I think is a great addition. I've never seen that anywhere else. So the spare wheel from the bonnet would go up here and the other one would go on the back door. This is where the blue light went. I've taken it off because you can't allow them on the road in the UK. We've got the extra bracing down here too, into the window blocks. So it's left-hand drive. Just listen to these doors. They shut. Oh, it's amazing, even though it's used. So it's got about 112,000 miles on it, 180,000 kilometers. It's got a bit of plating in here. This is armour plating, because there was a risk of explosives where this vehicle was used. So we've got some plating in here down the other side. We've also got it on the rear floor here, up here, and then all down the rear tub and the wheel wells. And then there's a roll cage fitted as well, because if you add a load of weight to the bottom, then there's potential risk if you roll over. So left-hand drive with a bit of aircon, there we go. It came from the factory with 3 seats, no cubby box, so a 3rd seat in the middle. Not sure how useful that is these days. That door's a bit buggered, it is cracked. because of a crack in it and it's been hit from the outside. So I've had to take the door card off at the moment because the only way I can do the door lock is from the inside. The key doesn't actually work in it. I think it's been replaced. Got a stereo here kind of bodged into. This is actually the non-stereo surround, and it's been cut out of the back and a stereo bodged into it. On the back we've got some galvanised bumperettes on there, and then a separate step that's been put on. We've got a NATO hitch, just kind of made the chassis the rear cross member a bit wonky there. Another bracket with a bumperette. So these bumperettes are for towing basically, so you don't end up jackknifing. It's kind of like the military ones. We've also got jacking points built into there. We've got the light guards as they came from the factory, and the spare wheel carrier fitting on there, which is bolted through the bottom of the tub, and then there's other plating on the side of here as well. Take a look underneath. It's got a standard diff, standard suspension, really, although it's got double helper springs on the back because they did have some extra armour plating underneath as well. Mud tyres, these are relatively new, but this here was all completely full of mud. It's nice and clean now, you can actually see the daylight coming through. Look at that chassis, that is incredible. To see a vehicle like this in the UK is absolutely unheard of. The factory paintwork on a chassis on a British Defender will disappear within about 3 years of it being brand new. It's just incredible. In the back, door opens, quite scuffed up. I mean, this is the business end of the vehicle because we've got a stretcher in here. So this wasn't used as an ambulance all the time. It was basically an ambulance as a backup. It was actually used as a working vehicle, taking people, moving people around for most of its life, and then it can double up as an ambulance if required. So this can come out, and then we unhitch this. It slides across there, and then you can quite easily slot a stretcher in to there and then clip it in. High lift jack, mounting points down there, a few extra walking sticks that came with it, very nicely carved. Yeah, this vehicle, it started out, it didn't have the armour plating originally, so you can see a lot of welding has been done here. It didn't have all this to begin with. It's only in the last sort of 4 years that this has been put on. So this stretcher was original, got taken off, the plating put on, and then this got put back on top. There we go, that is the basic tour. But don't worry, I'm going to be doing loads more videos about this particular vehicle in the future. So why did I want to pursue to buy one of these vehicles? Well, this to me represents a bit of British automotive history. This vehicle was built in the last 2 weeks of non-electronically controlled Land Rovers, which is what people, in many respects, consider to be some of the purest, concepts of what a Land Rover actually should be. Very easily fixable, no electronics. So this represents one of the last of the line. The other aspect is it's been a used and working vehicle. It's worked overseas for an NGO as an ambulance, doing rough and tough work. It's had a life, it's got a history, and many people consider NGOs as what Land Rovers were made for. So it's got a lot of provenance, shall we use that word. What are my plans with it? Well, long term I want to restore it, bring it back to its former glory. I'm going to have to decide which side of the coin I fall on in terms of changing things. It is incredibly original at the moment. It's numbers matching, in fact, if you understand what that phrase means. But in the short term though, I'm going to have to get it through an MOT so that I can register it in the UK. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.